Welcome to 4C Radio. We are broadcasting from the central campus of Christ University, Bengaluru. 4C Radio is brought to you by the Department of Media Studies of Christ University. For all those who are looking for a platform that focuses on communities, commons, climate, and communication, this is the place to be. What's more, this station is run by a diverse community of students and dedicated faculty members. Tune in to experience hard-hitting interviews, fact checks, myth-busting, on-ground stories, campus news, and more. Although world over, there is enough and more awareness about climate change, its impact, and issues around finance and justice, it is neither enough nor really effective. The rate at which its impact is accelerating, just look around you. More floods, droughts, heat waves, and much more. It is essential all of us need to get involved as citizens who practice eco-friendly, climate-friendly lifestyle and as citizens who demand and ensure accountability from larger public institutions. In our own Uru, Bengaluru, on one hand, climate impact is felt. On the other, various civic groups have been active and have mobilized time and again. However, more importantly and more recently, the BBMP itself has decided to implement climate education in its schools. We are excited by the idea of Catch Them Young when it comes to environmental consciousness. Aren't we all immensely moved and inspired by Greta Thunberg, who started Fridays for Future? So our student journalist, Shreya, has done a deep dive into the subject. She not only spoke to the members of BCAP, that is the Bengaluru Climate Action Plan, but also met with organizations that conduct these trainings and even met the most important stakeholder, the children.
In most Indian schools, climate is taught in paragraphs tucked into science units. But what if it was taught in stories? Earlier in July, the BBMP conducted an orientation workshop for the newly established Bengaluru Climate Action Clubs. 700 schools and pre-university colleges have signed up under this new initiative to bring climate education into their classrooms. But what happens after the sign-up sheet? In this episode, 4C Media follows the threads of this initiative, exploring what this kind of education looks like, its potential impact, and what it really takes to make climate change feel real to a classroom full of young people. It all began with the formation of Bengaluru Climate Action Cell under BBMP, led by Commissioner Preeti Galot. With a vision to bring climate awareness to the grassroots, she brought on a team of 7 young climate action fellows. We spoke to one of them, Jeevita, a data innovation fellow who has been working directly with schools to build the digital infrastructure that powers the program.
Now we have started a first set of activity, that is baseline assessment, to know all the schools and students, do they know the climate change, what is climate change, some sort of small questionnaire type, and then we will shortly start with our set of audit questions. So we are focusing at primary stage on 4 sectors, that's water, energy, greening and waste. So these 4 sectors we are primarily targeting.
Schools are now onboarded through a digital portal using unique school codes. A WhatsApp-based tool keeps communication streamlined, and each school has its own dashboard to log and track climate activities. But tech is only half the story. What will children actually learn? To shape the learning experience, BBMP has brought in 3 organizations called as working groups: Climate Educators Network, Thick at Tails, and CMCA, that is Children's Movement for Civic Awareness. Dr. Sunaina Ganguly, co-founder of the CEN Climate Educators Network, says the key is to decentralize the teacher's role by shifting from instructor to co-learner. CEN brings in multiple pedagogies from art and ecology to citizen science to give the schools the flexibility to choose what works best for their classrooms. She emphasizes that climate change is not just a science issue, but a societal one.
The way that people are thinking about climate education is still very siloed, but actually that's something that they've made a about turn with AI, for example. Like the way people are thinking about integrating AI into the core of education, right? Because people are already using it, like it's already there. So you kind of have to learn to adapt, and you have to teach students to adapt as well. Climate change is actually at the same place. We're already there. We have to choose how to adapt. We have to kind of figure it out. But that thrust of we are in an emergency, this needs to be a core of whatever kind of education we do, that imagination has still not come. So that way, I'm very happy that at least the state initiative says, at least not just symbolically, but really is at least saying the state is taking something seriously, right? May not be in formal education, but even in informal, like getting into the formal spaces using informal mechanisms, we hope will make climate education also central to education itself. And so the larger aim, I would say, at least that I see of climate education, is not so much about literacy, it's not about vocabularies, it's really about building communities and learning to work across skill sets, learning to integrate different skills, learning to solve problems together.
While BBMP sets the broader structure, it's organizations like Thicket Tales that bring climate education to life. Founded by Sai Devi, Thicket Tales runs immersive nature-based programs that connect children and families to their backyards. Apart from helping build curriculum, they bring in their expertise through zonal-wise nature immersion sessions as direct interventions. They also plan to roll out smaller activities that students and faculty can conduct independently.
When we go inside the classroom, we use approach called layered questioning. The whole idea behind it is that students do know the answer. We help them think through prompting. And for the first two sessions, it's very difficult for students because somebody has entered the classroom, asked them to think. And so their brain is not wired like that. So it takes quite some time for them to start thinking, one, to arrive at an answer. Once they get hang of it, that becomes a foundation, so that post which they can form perception about anything. Only when they form perception about anything, they will be connected to the backyard itself.
As part of their year-long program Learn Around Nature, Thicket Tales collaborates with low-income schools in Bengaluru to conduct classes. We visited Ashoka Shishu Vihara to see how nature education plays out in a classroom. There, 11-year-old Vaishali told us about her favorite activity during class.
What do you learn in these classes?
Stories and whatever ma'am say, that one.
Invertebrate and vertebrate.
I learned
New things we have been learned. Amphibians.
As the 6th grade class ends, each student gives a big hug to the facilitator and bids them goodbye until they meet them till the next week.
This is a recorder. It records everything that we speak.
Ooh.
Very fluffy, no? Very soft.
According to Vasavi, program head at Thicket Tales, children are already aware of what's happening around them. The facilitator's role is to help them realize this, not by telling them, but by guiding them to discover it themselves through carefully designed activities.
There is no requirement of us going in and telling climate has been changed over years. That is why we are feeling. If they connect that dot, that is enough for us. That is what I have seen, and that is how our education also goes around. We give them experiments and we give them activities so that they arrive at some answers about the questions whatever they have in their surrounding. Everything is conceptualized. It has to be visualized to themselves for everyday life. Then they will connect to it.
Gaining faculty support is just as important in integrating climate education. A teacher from Ashoka Shishu Vihara, Ms. Purnima, spoke to us about the impact and the challenges of embedding climate learning into everyday teaching.
Practically, children are learning more, but theoretically, we can teach only, we have the limit borders. But in outside, they are doing fantastic work. Really, I loved that. because normal academic year only we have 8 periods, 40 minutes each. All other teachers should sacrifice their period because already question paper has been set for FA1, SA1, FA3. We have to complete that portion and we have to sacrifice. But this is more also important from academic, and this is also very important. That is the main challenge. All teachers has to sacrifice their period.
The third working group is CMCA, the Children's Movement for Civic Awareness. With 25 years of experience working with children, they use this expertise to create engaging content and train teachers on how to use it. The content is being designed for classes 6th to 11th. Their goal is to encourage hands-on learning. CMCA is also exploring zonal or cluster level competitions between schools to showcase student-led climate interventions. We spoke to Neha, the Content Development Associate, working with BBMP, to know more about this.
We've divided our content in 2 different phases, which is phase 1 and phase 2. So phase 1 has 3 sessions, and that's including some audits, some climate audits, which will help students just have a background check about their school contributing to energy, water, electricity, and waste. And then moving forward, the next phase would cover things like what they would have to do for the betterment of these 4 themes, which is water, waste, energy, and greening. So for these, what they would do is after the audit, they choose what team they would want to work with, and then they have certain projects. So those projects also we are developing along with our partners, and these projects would be assigned to them as handouts. They're all activity based. So that's how we've understood which will work better. And it's also a lot of peer learning that we have pushed into this, because we would want just teachers to facilitate these sessions and children to really brainstorm and figure things out for themselves. So that's the kind of approach we have also used in our content. So also, since it's a very climate education based, we have tried pushing words like climate change, climate action very mindfully, because that is what the essence is of the content, right? So if there is a climate change, like a fact or an information, what is the action that you can bring about for it is the next question that's always following. So that climate change, climate action is like a constant link that we have tried mindfully putting into it, thinking that, okay, maybe children through this can mindfully think of a solution for the various things that's happening across our city.
So how do we help urban students connect to the impact of climate change? To make climate education locally rooted, we spoke to Priyanka Prakash from Nature Classroom, who works with teachers to design contextual, nature-based learning materials. She emphasizes that lived experiences from Bangalore's own environment can be powerful tools to help children understand climate issues. Priyanka adds that eco clubs should give students the space to express their honest thoughts, even if that means admitting that they don't care, so that climate learning feels real and empowering and not overwhelming.
I think the challenge we face is that schools want to directly have climate change conversation or climate change education without starting off with understanding how kids are connecting with the nature around them. That's a challenge we do face, but we are seeing a lot more interest for sure. There is probably because the government's mandates are also becoming more prominent nowadays around these topics. There is a lot more conversation in general across the globe about it. I think the issue slightly is that, is it being done because it's a mandate, or is it being done because, say schools really want to take this up and have an interest in wanting to get their children to think about climate action or think about environmental education. That's a challenge that we are seeing right now. When we are called to think about curriculum in school, they already have a set plan, right? They have a plan. This is the chapters we are covering, or this is the textbook that we are using, and this is the time that we want to allocate.
Two common threads throughout every conversation we had was that, one, education cannot be treated as a standalone subject. It works best when integrated with across disciplines, making it a part of everyday learning and not just a separate hour in the timetable. Two, climate education cannot be preached. It needs to be experienced. Students must have critical and beyond classroom engagement to help them become active citizens in the future. BBMP's initiative is a structural step in that direction. And while challenges like scaling, evaluation, and progress tracking remain, stakeholders are optimistic that the coming year will bring more clarity and data. As it stands, the effort is still early and evolving. The true success of this initiative will lie in its continuity as a sustained long-term climate education across the city.
At a time when climate reporting provides a bleak view of the future, these educational initiatives for children provide a glimmer of hope. Climate Education Initiative by the BBMP is an investment in the future of our country, the children. It is our responsibility as a society to ensure that children grow up to become citizens. Citizens who are aware of their responsibility, try and keep climate change at bay. And the work starts here and now. Thank you for listening to this podcast. As always, stay curious. The climate story is still unfolding and we are here to follow it. Reportage in this episode was done by Shreya. This podcast was illustrated by Vernika Singh and was edited by Srinivas Aditya. Please write to us and follow 4C Radio on Instagram and X. Until next time, be curious and ask questions. 4C Radio is an initiative by the Department of Media Studies, Christ University, Bengaluru.